Hello, my name is Piper Hofstee and this is my director's commentary for my experimental film Atlas. Atlas explores the nature of the vast unknown and encourages the audience to find beauty in being insignificant. The design of my experimental film was intentionally structured and executed to deliberately challenge the typical experience an audience has after watching an experimental film. As experimental films are non-linear in nature, audiences are often left confused and frightened by the rush of images without a distinct link between them. In my film, I wanted to take this uncertainty inherent to the experience of experimental films and link it to the limited knowledge we have about the universe, showing the audience that just because they do not understand something does not mean they cannot appreciate the beauty of it. I used a mix of symbols, figures, and images found in science and mythology to shape the universe portrayed in my film, to bring both an element of realism and spirituality to the way my audience viewed the environment I was creating. The title of my film, Atlas, represents this dichotomy perfectly. An atlas is another name for a map, a title I found fitting for a film about the universe, as the stars have long been used as navigation tools. Atlas is also the name of the Greek titan of astronomy, responsible for holding up the night sky. In the first shot of my film, my actor Mary kneels in a position designed to mirror the position Atlas is usually portrayed in, showing that she is a symbolic representation of the titan. My film also begins with a short audio clip from the film 2010, The Year We Made Contact, a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey.
My God, it's full of stars.
This audio serves to both set the tone of my film and pays brief homage to 2001, a film that influences my style as a filmmaker and this experimental film in particular. To better explain the symbols and figures present throughout the body of my film, I think of it as being loosely divided into 3 sections. Part 1, Window, is composed of 9 wide shots, with the camera slowly closing on various central figures. Each of these shots and figures represents one of the 9 planets of the solar system, starting closest to the sun and moving outward, taking the viewer on a journey from the center to the edge of the solar system. The environment that each figure stands in was also carefully selected in association with the symbolic representations each planet has in Roman mythology. Mercury is closest to the sun and named for the god of messengers, so the sun sits central frame and cars whiz by in the background. Venus is the goddess of love and is considered the sister planet of Earth, so 2 sisters stand side by side holding hands. Earth is the place of growing things and solid ground, and so a figure kneels in the dirt closest to the Earth. Mars is the god of war, and so a figure stands in the middle of the road, an invention pioneered by the Romans to wage it. Jupiter is the king planet, so a figure stands solitary, wearing a crown. Saturn is the goddess of the harvest, Uranus, the god of the sky, Neptune, the god of the ocean, and Pluto, the god of night and the underworld. As the camera moves beyond Pluto and enters the stars, Part 2, The Odyssey, begins. Real images of Earth and space are overlaid, shown in motion and not static to invoke a sense of journey and distance. This shows contrast between them, but also invites the audience to consider them interlinked, both partners in a celestial dance. As the journey slows, we enter Part 3, Atlas. The audience is once again shown the figure from the beginning of the film, our symbolic representation of Atlas. We observe her as she observes the universe, and watch as her hands interact and shape the nature of her reality, the fabric of the universe. The film ends as she pulls back the curtain on a sea of stars, exposing the beauty of the vastness of the universe and showing the audience that even in the dark, light can still be found. The initial concept for my film was not very different from my finished product. From the beginning of my production, I knew I wanted to confront and challenge the typical anxieties people tend to experience when thinking about themselves in relation to the universe. However, some of the ways I wanted to confront and portray these fears were limited somewhat by my capacity as a high school student. As much as I love the cinematography of filmmakers such as Roger Deakins, I unfortunately do not have the millions of dollars that he has available to fund production. Initially, I wanted to film the majority of my production outdoors and at night, as I believed this would create a greater sense of scale, a feeling that was crucial to my audience's experience of the film. In part 1 and 2 of my film, I was actually able to achieve this quite well, although in the daytime. However, part 3 of my film was the section I ran into trouble in, as this was the segment I wanted to film at night. My access to cameras, and particularly lighting, up to the standard I wanted was limited, and so I was forced to conceive of a new plan. The solution I came up with was to film on the stage at my school, blocking out all natural light sources and using exclusively stage lighting to create an environment I could manipulate and shape with ease. The limited lighting allowed me to retain the sense of scale I wanted to portray, as I had a large open space in which to film, and so it was possible to do wide shots where the frame was taken primarily by a black void with a small section lit, making the stage seem much larger than it was in reality. In retrospect, I think this compromise actually improved my film and the atmosphere I was able to create, as filming on the stage under artificial lights allowed me to also control the colour of the lighting, and so add an extra layer of symbolism and stylistic flourish. I was very happy with the end result. As I mentioned earlier, I am influenced greatly as a filmmaker by other filmmakers such as Roger Deakins, an Academy Award-winning cinematographer, and Stanley Kubrick. I particularly love the slow pacing and cinematic nature of their films, their extensive use of wide shots and vibrant colours creating a very distinct world within the screen. Basically, I love how they create movies that need to be seen in the cinema, on a massive screen surrounded by an awestruck audience. The visuals in my film also took inspiration from films specifically about space or the unknown, such as Blade Runner 2049, Interstellar, and Annihilation. Additionally, the stark lighting and shadows, use of the colour purple to the exclusion of all others, creating an environment that is practically monochrome, and limited camera movement were influenced by stylistic conventions of the foreign film style German Expressionism, particularly films such as Fritz Lang's Metropolis. Overall, I was very happy with the end result of my film, and I believe it had the desired effect upon my audience, soliciting the reaction from them that I sought when first conceptualizing my production.